feedback about what's going on, and she can answer those questions, and then we'll take some at the end as well. So Kim, everything going well in the chat room so far?
So far, so good.
Great. If you have a question for us but you can't access the chat room, feel free to email us at recognition@baudville.com, and we'll respond to you after the Recognition TV webisode today. So we're going to get started and jump right into the content. So imagine for me that your family's decided that you need to move your grandmother into an assisted living facility. You know, maybe she's not steady on her feet, she's confusing her meds, or in the case of my grandmother, her cooking just got atrocious. It was awful. So it's time to get her some extra help. So you have two different options in your town. And the first one you go to, the staff isn't welcoming, they're not warm, you hear a call button going the entire time, you don't get a good feeling from the employees. The second one you go to, you're greeted with a smile, people ask you how they can help, they show you around the facility, and you hear employees and residents laughing and having, you know, really cheerful banter going on. So after you visit these two facilities, it's probably pretty easy which one you want to put your grandma in. You're going to want to put her in the one that have the happy employees because there's just a better culture there. And that is really consistent with all assisted living facilities in your organization as well. Happy employees are more productive and create a more successful organization. So we partnered with Grace Haven, which is one of Lana's assisted living facilities, to help them with their struggling employee morale and engagement by implementing an employee recognition program. And not only were the results incredibly beneficial for the facility, but we created a program, you know, steps that you can follow in your organization to help replicate the same results. So to get started, Lana's going to tell you a little bit about Grace Haven.
Yes, Grace Haven was opened in April of 2008 in St. John's, Michigan. And Grace Haven provides assisted living 24/7, 365 for about 40 residents. Resident care needs range from providing assistance with daily living activities to dementia care. Now, Grace Haven has about 40 employees on 3 shifts. 56% of them are full-time and 44% of them are part-time. 76% of our employees are in the direct care. Direct care employees are not required to have certifications, licenses, or previous experience, just a passion for caring for the elderly. Most of our direct care employees are females under 30, and we have shifts in increments of 8 to 12 hours with a 30-minute mandatory lunch and no other breaks. Direct care givers assist residents in getting dressed with personal hygiene in the morning. They work in the kitchen to serve meals, they change sheets, they make the beds, do the laundry, bathe residents, and do periodic checks throughout the day. They have very busy schedules and little downtime, if any. Now, Grace Haven was experiencing some attitudes, and the atmosphere was often described as negative. They had a very poor opinion and a lack of respect for management. There were lots of discontent among employees. There were power struggles with poor communication between the shifts. Employees were often upset over scheduling. There was lots of contention on how the day shift was treated differently than the night shift. Employee cliques had formed that provided obstacles to any sense of teamwork. And there were also some attendance issues going on at Grace Haven. This was not uncommon for employees to call in at the last minute to cancel their shifts. And this required management to scramble to find a substitute, which could take hours of making phone calls and waiting for answers. If no replacement was found, management required mandating other employees to work extra at the end of their 12-hour shift. Turnover was also a prevalent problem. Grace Haven was experiencing double-digit turnover compared to the industry standard for assisted living facilities. It's very costly for the administrator who was constantly recruiting, interviewing, and retraining new employees. And to top it off, there was very little recognition going on at Grace Haven. Management had adopted a, if I don't say anything, you're doing a good job attitude. But this didn't satisfy the employees and left them feeling abused. The only attention they got from their boss was when they did something wrong or there was a complaint.
So we knew the situation at Grace Haven was pretty dire, but we wanted to really diagnose what was truly going on there. So we conducted an employee engagement survey. It looks like this. You can download this from our Recognition Resource Center in the case studies section. And we used this to establish a baseline for the work we were going to do. So we handed out the survey to all employees before we'd done anything with the recognition program, and the measurements we got kind of served as our starting point so we could measure our progress. And we found that there were several good things happening at Grace Haven, even though we heard about a lot of the negative. First of all, employees liked their work and they were passionate about caring for the residents. They genuinely cared for their well-being. And they felt that their work there was making a difference in the lives of the residents by making them feel more independent, giving them a great living environment and that wonderful direct care. However, recognition was an obvious need for improvement, and the measurements that we took from our survey in regards to recognition were extremely low. Employees did not believe that recognition was a priority at the company. They didn't think that managers rewarded fairly, and they also said that they had not received recognition lately at all. So there was a lot of room for growth there. In addition to the employee survey, we also held focus groups. So we took a group of employees and a group of managers and sat down with them separately to ask them about the situation that was going on. And so this was an area where those frustrations for not getting recognition really showed through. Employees told us that they missed or they wanted to have those good jobs and those attaboys, those thank yous from peers and managers. And we got some valuable information to help us guide our recognition programs. Employees told us that they valued recognition or praise or thank yous from residents and their families more than anybody else. So that was something we took into consideration. And they gave us a lot of great ideas for different programs, different rewards that they wanted to have, which helped fuel our recognition going forward. So once we did that data collection with the survey and the focus groups, we identified a few key issues that we wanted to address. And Lana's going to talk about those now.
Yes, so after we got some employee feedback through the survey and the focus groups, we identified 3 key issues through our recognition program. The first one was a lack of employee recognition and performance evaluation. Staff felt underappreciated and overlooked by managers, particularly the night shift, because they had limited face time with the managers. The management strategy of, if I don't say anything to you, you're doing a good job, was dissatisfying to staff and demoralizing. The second issue we addressed was the low sense of camaraderie and morale. Grace Haven staff were passionate about their jobs and enhancing the lives of the residents, but a low number of staff believed that their peers felt the same way. And in fact, the survey showed that 74% of employees who did not feel their coworkers were committed to doing quality work. And the third thing was poor attendance. Obvious to everyone was the attendance challenge. Attendance issues have always been a problem at Grace Haven, and it wasn't unusual for there to be a call-in every day. The high number of call-ins was negatively affecting morale and teamwork. So when an employee called in, it could take management several hours to find a replacement, and often employees would not even call back to confirm whether or not they could work. When no one accepted the extra shift, employees were forced to cover for their peers and mandated to work overtime. With these priority issues in mind, Baudville designed several recognition programs.
That's right. We took those priority issues and we created programs to strategically make improvements in those areas. So the first issue Lana talked about was that lack of feedback and recognition. So we actually equipped managers with a tool to help them do that on a regular basis. And if you're familiar with us, you may know that this is our Pintastic Manager. It's a great manager tool. And we gave this to the managers at Grace Haven because we knew that employees wanted to wear a lapel pin. That's something that they felt was a great sign of their achievement and accomplishment. So when a manager wanted to recognize somebody, they would take a lapel pin out of this book. Then they'd also take a card from the back, write a note, and present it to the employee. I'm going to give that one to Lana. And this was a great way for managers to have that more personal interaction and actually have a physical way to recognize people. And the first one that was given of those was for someone who had been mandated to stay and work later, but did it with a really positive attitude. So the manager gave her one of those pins just to thank her. The second program that we created was really developed to help target that fact that teamwork was at a very, very low. Lana said that 74% of employees did not think that their coworkers did quality work. Well, that's an issue. So this was a really exciting program because we had such a great area to grow. We actually did the Shout-Outs program at Grace Haven, and we put these stands in several locations throughout the facility, at main entrances, at nurses' stations, and at a bulletin board in the main hallway. And then we communicated with everybody related to the facility. So managers, employees, residents, their families, through newsletters and meetings, how to use this and that they're all welcome to use it. And it's really easy when I wanted to recognize Lana for helping me out on the shift. I would just take off one of these notes, write a note to her, and then I posted it on a public bulletin board. And this had a really great effect early on at Grace Haven. In fact, the office manager said that shoutouts have been really impressive. We almost need a bigger board because most of it is full already. I've noticed a lot of people taking the time, filling them out, and stopping by the board to read them. So people really took pride in seeing their name out there and in giving those notes, and that was a great way to help boost the culture. The third program that we created was targeted towards that attendance issue that we saw. Attendance was a really big problem, so we wanted to recognize people who had great attendance to help encourage people to be better about coming in for their shifts. So we created this attendance award. So an employee could earn a token of appreciation, which is one of these ceramic coins. You can feel like they have a nice, they're kind of heavy. So you can earn one of these when you had perfect attendance for a pay period, so 2 weeks, without calling in your shift at all. And then you can save them up to collect other rewards. So if Lana got 2 of these, here you go, she could redeem those for a casual day or a pop or candy of her choice. If she got 4 of these, she could turn those in for a $5 Little Caesars gift card, which is a great thing for those busy families can easily pick up a pizza. And if she got 6 of them, she could redeem them for a $10 gift card. So even though it seems like a small reward, it was very motivating for the employees because we chose things that they wanted to use. The cost of these programs was really affordable even for the small Grace Haven. The annual cost for those 3 programs and a couple others that we did on the side was $28 per employee, and that total comes to 7 cents per employee per day, so which is a pretty easy, pretty affordable way to recognize your employees. So with these programs in place, Grace Haven saw some great results right away.
And as Corey stated, we did experience some great results at Grace Haven. Recovery, number 1, is the new attitude that developed from our staff. 64% of employees believe that the work culture had improved as a result of the recognition program. The management team noticed the environment was more relaxed and the employees were less negative about coming to work. 68% of them had received some form of recognition, and 78% of employees had given recognition to another Grace Haven worker. This was a significant increase considering there was virtually no recognition happening before the program was implemented. The use of recognition made employees more comfortable with giving recognition too. Managers and employees both acknowledged that communication had improved and verbal recognition, the thank yous and the great jobs, had become a common occurrence. Recovery number 2 was increased collaboration and respect amongst our employees and management. Remember the first survey we discussed that discovered that only 74% of employees felt their coworkers were not committed to quality work? Well, when we measured this after the program had been in place for 60 days, that decreased to 37%. Employees started working together as a team, and this was evident as employees willingly helped cover shifts when needed. One of the employees stated, "I feel it made us closer. People you didn't think cared do." Employee confidence and leadership also experienced a 66% lift. The shout-outs, as Corey was discussing, were a meaningful source of recognition, as one employee put it, because everyone, including families and residents, sees it. Recovery number 3 was attendance and accountability improved. Increased sense of teamwork led employees to place a greater value on attendance. 90% of employees received at least 1 token award in the first 60 days the program was in place. Attendance improved dramatically. The administrator at Grace Haven said that the attendance had dramatically improved since implementing the program. And today, people pick up the drop shifts more commonly than in the past, so employees aren't mandated to work extra as much. Also, employees are better at calling management to let them know if they can or cannot work rather than not responding at all. Some other improvements we saw as a result of the recognition program that we implemented were several other areas. Most significantly was employee confidence that managers reward employees fairly. Overall satisfaction and engagement increased at Grace Haven also. Employees who agreed with the statement, "Overall, I am satisfied with my job," increased by 66%. The number of employees who agreed that they felt valued at the organization increased 47%. And employees who agreed that their opinions at Grace Haven counted increased by 83%. The employee attitudes significantly improved, and some of the comments they had made were, "It is making a difference. It's a great program, and it boosts people's morale."
Now, Lana just shared a lot of information with you, so if you're interested in catching more of those numbers, you can download the complete case study, or success story as we like to call it, from the Recognition Resource Center, so be sure to check that out. Now we're going to tell you about some steps you can take to implement this program at your organization.
Yes, we do have, as Corey said, several steps that you can implement to roll this program out at your facility quickly and affordably. The first step is create a team. When Baudville worked with Grace Haven, there were 2 recognition specialists who dedicated their time to work on the project. You might be too busy to dedicate that much time to your organization, so recruit some help for the program. Build a team with a mix of employees and managers, and they should be from several different departments. These individuals will serve as your champions in their respective teams and as recognition liaisons for the organization. The second step is employee feedback. This consists of measuring employee engagement through the survey tool that Baudville created and by holding focus groups and conducting interviews with employees. The survey can be downloaded, as Corey stated, through the Baudville website along with the success story that we have. A Likert scale was used to help quantify individuals' feelings, experiences, and preferences. And by conducting the survey before the program started, then again at 30 days, 60 days, and 120 days, we were able to create a benchmark and measure our success. Having this baseline quantifies your return on investment and provides a starting point by which you can measure results and share with your executive team. It's a very simple process, and you don't need to be a data analyst to do it. Woo! The survey is flexible and can be administered electronically or by hard copy or by both. And some things to remember once you do receive feedback on your environment using these methods is best put by our administrator of the facility. And that is, be open to listening to criticism. This is the hardest part. Okay, the third step is to identify goals for your recognition program. It is very important to go through the data collection process because it provides valuable input into what types of recognition and rewards will resonate with your staff. Involving employees early on will help make them feel part of the process and will gain buy-in for the program before it's even started. Some examples of goals to identify include some areas that might need improvement, some ways to improve those areas, what behaviors do you want to reinforce, and any cultural issues.
So step 4 of implementing your own strategic employee recognition program is create programs that are going to align with your goals. So Lana just talked about creating those goals once you gather the information from your employees, and then you want to make sure that your programs are going to reinforce behaviors that will help you achieve those goals. At Grace Haven, we connected our programs to those 3 priority issues we told you about, improving feedback, improving teamwork, and the attendance issue. So we used, if you remember, we used shout outs to help with teamwork, we used the attendance award to help with the attendance issues. And so we recognized behaviors that we wanted to see repeated and that would help us achieve those goals. And so at this step in the process, you also want to determine what tools you're going to use. What are going to be the rewards that your staff appreciates, that's going to motivate them. Determine what those are going to be. Maybe you need to add a question to your survey to help you get that information so that you can build it into your program to make it as effective as possible. Step 5 is my favorite because I'm a communications person, and that's just to communicate. You want to make sure that your employees and your managers both feel like they're a part of the process. So make sure that you keep them updated on what you're doing and put information about the program out there and open. Make sure it's readily available to anybody who wants it. Excuse me, you can put it in your newsletter, put it on an intranet, you have a company blog, all those different ways that you communicate with your employees. Make sure you incorporate information about your program. At Grace Haven, we attended multiple staff meetings that we could communicate with the employees about what was going on. And we told them how the programs work, how they were going to be involved, and how to recognize. Make sure you include some basic training, because we may think it's simple. Some of us may know how to write a thank you note that's effective, but not everybody does. So be sure to include that in your training. And when you get everybody on board and you communicate, they're all going to be a part of the strategy, and they're going to help you achieve your goals more effectively. Step 6 is to implement your program. Just get it started, and you and your team need to be the ones who are going to champion and lead the way by practicing it on a regular basis.
And step 7, accept change. It's very crucial to understand that your recognition program is never complete. Regular feedback must be sought from your employees to see how it's going. Tweak things as necessary to keep the program enticing. For example, a Grace Haven employee suggested that the rewards for the attendance award change periodically to remain a strong incentive for employees. Your constant attention to the program and willingness to make changes will maintain momentum in the long run and ensure long success of your program. Grace Haven is keeping up the energy around the recognition program by adding new programs and events into the mix.
So we just shared our 7 steps, or what we like to call our prescription for success, and if you want to get that information, you can download an outline of the 7 steps from the case studies section in our Recognition Resource Center, and we'll also have more details on these on our blog later today, so be sure you check that out at bvblog.baudville.com. But at this point, we're going to stop in our presentation and see if we have any questions from the chat room. Kimberly?
Okay, we've actually had a few.
Great.
One of the first ones was regarding the employee engagement survey. They were curious if you have any downloads available for ones that were not specific to Grace Haven.
Well, the one that we do have on the website is specific to Grace Haven, but most of the questions you can easily tailor to your own organization. We do have Grace Haven written in here, and something about the residents, but change it for your organization. So if your school, you can change it to, I believe I'm making a difference in the lives of my students, or it can be in the lives of my customers, or I believe I'm making a difference, period. So this is provided for you as a template, and we hope you'll take it and modify it to fit your organization so you can make sure you get the right information for your recognition program.
Great, thank you, Corey. Also, somebody asked, how do you encourage people to use the shout-outs? We've communicated them in the newsletters and put them in busy locations, but they still go unused.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
Aww.
Grace Haven had a great experience with the shout-outs. But if you need to provide a little bit of incentive, if you, first of all, get a team. If you have a team that's excited about recognition, if they start practicing it, that could be a way to get the ball rolling. Sometimes people just need to see someone take the lead. If you have a few people who are using shout-outs, you can encourage them by recognizing those people for recognizing. The whole point of recognition is you recognize behaviors you want to see repeated. So if a few people are using them, be sure to give them that reinforcement. Also think about maybe why people aren't using the shout-outs. Do they not feel comfortable with the public recognition? Do they not know how to write a great shout-out? Or maybe they don't know what behaviors they're looking for. So it could be possible you need to provide some additional training. Lana, anything you care to add?
Yes, I do. That's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Corey made some very excellent points, and I would like to add to that to keep the shout-outs fresh, because we did notice that when we first implemented shout-outs, they were very widely used. We had a ton of them posted on our board, and after the recognition program had been in place for some time, they do tend to drop off a little bit, because it's kind of one of those things that, okay, now we're familiar with it. But what you want to do to keep it fresh is you want to have that team that you've designated as your recognition liaison to engage with the employees and constantly get feedback. Constant feedback, as Corey stated, communication is one of the key factors to keeping your program fresh and running. So I would give you that advice, is to get together with your team and just talk with your employees and talk about it.
We hope you have some better success, but feel free to email us at recognition@baudville.com if you want to talk about it more.
Excellent.
Any other questions, Kimberly?
That looks like it for now.
Okay, well, we had a couple of things that I wanted to ask Lana about Grace Haven. The shout-outs was a great segue into it, but sometimes it's really hard to maintain momentum for your recognition program.
Mm-hmm.
But Lana, we have seen Grace Haven doing some exciting things, so how are they keeping the momentum going?
Well, as you stated earlier in the presentation, Corey, communication is the key to a successful recognition program. constant tweaking, changing up the rewards or the awards, soliciting feedback from your employees, and then build on the programs that you currently have. You know, people like fresh new things, so we had some employee suggestions for some really great ideas on new programs. And one of them we had actually is for attendance. Not only do we have these fabulous looking ceramic tokens, we also have raffle tickets. So for a 2-week period, if an employee has perfect attendance, they get a raffle ticket. And at the end of the month, they get drawn 3 gift certificates for all the raffle tickets that have been submitted, and employees can win prizes that way. So you just keep the program fresh and keep the momentum going, and that's what we do.
We also found at Grace Haven that once we put that foundation of strategic recognition in place and we trained the managers a little bit, they created more programs like the one Lana talked about. They also have now an Employee of the Month program, which recognizes 1 or 2 employees each month just by putting their picture up or maybe giving them a special parking space. And the leaders of the Grace Haven are also creating more events, parties, ways to recognize employees in different ways. So Lana, we've seen some great success at Grace Haven, but what are the next steps for Grace Haven and for leisure living management as a whole?
Well, the next steps for Grace Haven would be, we're going to get some more measurements. Part of the program is getting measurements, so we're up at the next section of time in which we are looking for another measurement, so that would be another survey to see how the program is doing and tweak it from there. And then after that, for the rest of the leisure living facilities, we're going to go ahead and roll out the program to 2 more facilities and monitor it the same way we did with Grace Haven. And eventually we'll have the programs rolled out in all of our facilities. So those are our next steps. We've got a pretty hefty thing we're going here.
It is really exciting though, once you see the results at Grace Haven, to think about that happening in your other facilities.
It's very exciting. It's positive and it's great and it's very well received.
Well, again, I want to tell you all that you can go to our case study section, download the full case study of Grace Haven, and if you have more questions or discussions, go over to the blog. We've been posting about the case study all week, and we're going to have some more tips today for you. So that's going to wrap up Recognition TV. I'd like to thank Lana for joining us.
Thank you, Corey.
Enjoyed having you, and we'll see you all next month. Be sure to register for our next episode. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.